Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're going to get started with Governor Beshear and Congressman Rogers in just a moment. But first, we want to hear from one of our guests in Kentucky today. Ben Taylor is with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and we want to ask him to come to the stage for an announcement and a special presentation. Ben Taylor.
Thank you. I'll be brief. From the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, but not from D.C., from the Chicago regional office, you might be surprised to find Kentucky in the Great Lakes region, but we gerrymander with the best of them, and I love to come down here and visit my friends in Kentucky often. But being a northerner, I'm not going to come down here and talk to you too much about horses. I think you guys know a thing or two more than I do. But one thing that my friends here at the Kentucky Chamber, Dave and Brian and others, have told me about is when to spot a workhorse and how to see him and how to appreciate him. And Congressman Hal Rogers is a workhorse. Every year we score a certain number of votes in the House and Senate that are the most important to the business community that year. It's getting tougher because Congress is taking, at least on the Senate side, fewer and fewer votes of importance. But we do our best. We produce a document called How They Voted, no New York Daily News headline writers of the U.S. Chamber, but it's a very instructive document. It's online. It's on our website for all to see. And consistently, Congressman Hal Rogers has garnered our award, our Spirit of Enterprise Voting Award, given to every member that's a 70% or higher threshold with us. Once again, he's won it this year. I just want to detail a couple of votes that he took last year. From votes to keep the government funded and to maintain the full faith and credit of the United States and ensure we don't default in our debt obligations. Not sexy, fun votes to take and very difficult decisions to make, but staving off a calamitous economic response and very important to our members. Cybersecurity legislation, reauthorizing the Water Resources Development Act, which is something that Kentuckians know a lot about, and getting very important water transportation projects through authorized. Patent reform bills, a couple of bills that we would hope that Senator Reid takes up and sends to the president for his signature, employer mandate legislative fix, not the presidential fix that Senator Paul was talking about earlier, but a legislative delay or repeal of the employer mandate in the ACA bill. And certainly the Keystone Pipeline, other energy legislation that Congressman Rogers voted on as well. He's consistently been a champion of the business community. He's once again earned our Spirit of Enterprise Voting Award. He has an 86% record with the U.S. Chamber over his tenure in Congress. And I think it was important to just take a moment to thank him and present him our voting award. Please join me.
Thank you very much.
That's all.
You're all so quiet. Must have been the fudge pie on a stick. Visit again, please. The governor's been delayed just briefly. We'll get started and get underway in just a moment. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we're just about to get underway for our final session this afternoon. Our final presentation today will give us some insight into the SOAR project being headed up by two of our great Kentuckians, Governor Steve Beshear and Congressman Hal Rogers. This session is sponsored by the Kentucky Community and Technical College System, and here to present the two guests that we have this afternoon is Dr. Michael McCall. As founding president and CEO of KCTCS, Dr. McCall oversees a community college system of 16 colleges with over 70 locations, serving more than 97,000 students and touching the lives of 500,000 Kentucky citizens. Dr. McCall has more than 44 years of experience in community and technical college field. He has been recognized for collaborative partnerships, economic development, innovative use of technology, and the utilization of team-oriented management. And going off script for just a moment, many of you know that Dr. McCall will be leaving the system in January of 2015. He's done a tremendous job, and I think he's certainly been a friend to all Kentuckians, to you, to members of the Chamber of Commerce. So as he comes to introduce our speakers, let's give him an extra special warm round of applause. Dr. McCall.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it. It is good to be here this afternoon, and we're delighted to sponsor this session for our future and part of this conference as well. So it's my pleasure this afternoon to introduce two actually wonderful, distinguished guests and friends of Kentucky and good friends of myself as well. First of all, Governor Steve Beshear. Governor Beshear was elected governor of Kentucky in 2007 and was reelected in 2011. Earlier this year, Governor Beshear announced the inclusion of 308,000 more Kentuckians in the future Medicaid health insurance program and launched the Kentucky Health Benefit Exchange. The Medicaid expansion, together with the creation of the exchange, will ensure that for the first time in history, every Kentuckian will have access to affordable health insurance. An attorney by profession, Governor Beshear has a long background in public service, having served as a state representative in the Kentucky General Assembly, Attorney General, and Lieutenant Governor prior to being elected governor. Governor Beshear is a native of Dawson Springs in Hopkins County. He holds a bachelor's degree and law degree from the University of Kentucky and has served in the U.S. Army Reserve. Joining Governor Beshear is U.S. Congressman Hal Rogers. Serving Kentucky's 5th Congressional District since 1981, Congressman Rogers is currently in his 17th term representing the people of southern and eastern Kentucky and is the longest-serving Kentucky Republican ever elected to federal office. As chairman of the powerful House Appropriations Committee, his focus is on reducing the size and scope of government by reining in federal spending. Born in rural Kentucky and representing one of the poorest congressional districts in the nation, Congressman Rogers' visions for a stronger region spurred some of the greatest resource success stories in southern and eastern Kentucky. Organizations such as PRIDE, Operation Unite, Southeast Kentucky Economic Development Tour, Southern and Eastern Kentucky's Center for Rural Development have helped revitalize the district's communities and brought valuable jobs to one of the most beautiful regions of the country. Please join me in welcoming Governor Beshear and U.S. Congressman Hal Rogers. Sit down.
I'll tell you what. Ladies and gentlemen, would anybody like to play the part of Governor Beshear? Here he comes now. What timing? He's always been famously known for his dramatic entrances. We are ready to start. They are going to make some remarks at the very beginning, and then they're going to have a seat. You know, I thought we were going to have to do the empty chair debate, Governor. You know, there have been times on KET when one opponent showed up and the other didn't, and we had an empty chair. We stopped that long ago, but it's been broadcast before. So I think Congressman Rogers is going to begin first, and Governor, if you just want to have a seat, and then we'll get underway. Congressman.
Thank you. Thanks for the nice introduction. Thank you for the warm welcome. The nice introduction you gave me a moment ago is in deep contrast to town meetings I had back when I first got elected. And we were on a really tight schedule during August, and one of the people to introduce me at one of the stops was nervous about speaking, so she called my office to find out what to say. I learned all this later. The staff apparently said be brief because we're in a really tight bind here time-wise. And besides that, the county next door is where Hal's from, so people know him already. You don't need to say too much. Here's how that came out. She said, I'm very pleased to present to you Hal Rogers. You all know him, so the less said the better. Eastern Kentucky, as you well know, is having some severe economic problems. The loss of the coal mining jobs, I've lost 8,000 in my district alone in the last 2 years. The loss of those coal mining jobs, most of them good jobs paying $65,000 to $120,000 a year, are gone. And those people are trying to find jobs at McDonald's, supporting a family, many of them unsuccessfully. So we've got a real problem that we're going to have to try to solve. The governor and I talked last fall about it. And we jointly concluded that the only way for us to tackle this problem was joining hands together, uniting behind a common plan, non-political, and trying to pull people together to diversify, find ways to find other jobs in that region. So you're looking at the political odd couple here. But we get along great. We agree on most things, except one day of the year. And I think we've made some great progress. The first thing we did was call a summit in Pikeville back in December. It was a blustery, snowy day. And yet we had around 1,500 or so people show up and stay all day long. The leadership, really, of Eastern Kentucky. And we had a great day. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of ideas, a lot of plans, enthusiasm for joining together and making some good things happen. And that was a big idea. It turned out that was a big, great idea. But you know, I saw one time a saying that said the only thing more powerful than a big idea is the team that can see it through. So we've set about creating a team to see it through. And it's called SOAR, Shaping Our Appalachian Region. The idea is to try to find ways that we can diversify the economy, bring in new types of jobs to supplement what's there, continue to support the coal industry, of course, as best we can, but realizing that that industry will not be hiring as many people ever, probably, as it has in the past. So we set about creating the team. And we've now elected a board of directors. We're ready to hire an executive director, a great board of directors from all across the region, from all walks of life. And they've created 10 working groups that cover such things as tourism, education, retraining, business recruitment, business incubation, health, infrastructure, leadership development and youth engagement, regional collaboration and identity, and the like. And those teams are, as we speak, holding meetings in practically every town in that whole region, talking about these subjects that I've just talked to you about. Good attendance at those town meetings, dozens of them, and they're still going on. They will be presenting to the Board of Directors of SOAR some digested projects for us to undertake. Governor and I believe in action, not talk, and we're looking for a way to bring those jobs to our region. We've had some great success. We're having some great success. Let me tell you a couple of them. The governor has announced the four-laning of the Mountain Parkway into the mountains, all the way through. And that will be a major, major help to bring industry and more business to our part of the state. 8 of our counties were designated as a federal promise zone. Those counties particularly hard hit by poverty and loss of the jobs. That will allow those counties to go to the top of the line when it comes to applying for federal grants and the like. They get a big plus beside their name. The race to the top, $30 million, an award to boost K through 12 education, U.S. Department of Education, that will provide quality education in 17 of our eastern Kentucky school districts. The race to the top district grants are awarded to regions with innovative plans to drive education reform and improve student achievement. The Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative is leading that effort, affecting some 43,000 students, 2,500 educators in 14 counties. And then Secretary Vilsack, USDA, joined us, the governor and me, at Pineville to announce the strike force that will include eastern Kentucky in the national plan. That will expand the Department of Agriculture's strike force initiative into Kentucky and 3 other states. And that, again, will help those counties, 73 counties, to seek an increase of investment to the targeted counties through intensive outreach and partnership. A $2.6 million loan pool to spur small business startups and expansions. That was made possible by a $400,000 grant announced by the governor, $900,000 in private funds raised by Kentucky Highlands, and $1.3 million matching grant from the Community Development Financial Institutions Fund of U.S. Treasury. Those are some of the things that are being announced and worked on. The one that excites me most, however, is the Kentucky, what I call Kentucky Super Highway. We're going to bring high-capacity, high-speed cable to the communities of eastern Kentucky. The governor, of course, is working for the rest of the state as well. But the first of that effort will be focused on eastern Kentucky. And I'm told it'll take 2 years to complete the project. It'll be a huge undertaking. But I think it will give us the opportunity to create what I've long talked about in southeastern Kentucky and eastern Kentucky, is an effort to bring the newest high-tech industries into that region. I want us to be known as Silicon Holler. But just as an example, and most of you know this, in Mount Vernon, Kentucky, Rockcastle County, small, poor county, now has a U.S. Veterans Administration plant there that's digitizing the disabled servicemen's records. Some of those records, of course, are this thick, being digitized for instant replay. It will revolutionize the way that we handle the backlog of the veterans' claims that are now outstanding. 3 shifts, around 300 people, good-paying jobs, very complicated, very complex. But you know what the company that got the contract told me, as have all of the others I've talked to? The work ethic in eastern Kentucky is superior to any they've had around the country. So if you've got the willing workers who are highly qualified, low pay, but access to the internet cable, you can make it happen. Same thing is true with 4 or 5 of those types of plants in London and Corbin. The State Department has their visa application center in Williamsburg, and there they have to have very high expertise in identifying faces. Because when a person in Italy applies for a visa, the State Department makes a picture, and that picture goes to Williamsburg, and there we run it through the National Terror Watch Lists. But we have to be sure you are who you say you are. And therefore, these facial experts at Williamsburg, Kentucky, best in the world, do their thing. Some of it computer, most of it manual. FBI does a similar type operation in Barberville. Why? Only because there's cable there to get us into the national grid. Now the cable now is this big. The cable the governor and I are talking about is yay big. Unlimited, high-speed, high-capacity cable. It'll be the best in the country. And it's due to the cooperation of at least 2 people who see a vision out there. But they say a vision without funding is a hallucination. And of course, the funding part is tough. But the state has come through. We've got the ARC on board with money. There will be a private contractor who will compete for the job. So we're looking forward very much to the conclusion of that project. That one turns me on more than any of the others. Also on health. Eastern Kentucky has an extremely high incidence of heart disease, obesity, lung cancer, and those types of diseases. That's the reason we've invited Dr. Tom Frieden, the head of the Center for Disease Control, to come to Kentucky. He'll be here 3 days in August to listen to our health specialists in all sections of our region to see if there's some common denominator that we can come up with an action plan to tackle that really deep, basic problem. We've got 4 meetings, and you're all invited to one of these, at least one of them. Monday, the August the 4th, 6:30, Center for Rural Development in Somerset. Tuesday, August 5th at Hazard Community College. That night at Ramada Paintsville Hotel. And Wednesday at the Moorhead Convention Center in Moorhead. If you've not had a chance to meet Dr. Frieden, I really recommend him to you. He's really quite a man and doing a great job down there. Now, those are some of the types of work that are going on now. The governor will expand on this, no doubt. But we're finding what we all know is to be true, just like you are here, by working together, by putting our best minds to the task, throwing out the rule book, thinking outside the box, dreaming big dreams, having big ideas, and then putting our shoulder to the wheel, it'll work. My favorite saying is, plan your work, work your plan. Right now we're planning our work. And while we are also doing and making things happen. I appreciate the chance to be with you on this occasion. This is a tremendous crowd. I'm told a record crowd for your summit, and that's great. And I appreciate your focusing on Eastern Kentucky with this session. If we can lift Eastern Kentucky up and increase the education attainment, both high school and college. And if we can improve the health statistics in our region, the state averages will go dramatically up. And so it's important for the whole of Kentucky to help out with the chore of rebuilding and revitalizing the eastern Kentucky section of our state. I thank you for your help in that regard. If you're looking to expand your business, I've got just the place for you. Thank you. Let me introduce a person to you. We've formed a good working relationship. He's an idea man, but what I like about him, he's an action man. And he plans his work and then he works his plan. So let me present to you your governor, Stephen Beshear.
Thank you. Actually, I've been asked to come and introduce Bill Goodman. They probably know you, Bill. Thank you for letting the Congressman and I come and talk to you for a few minutes about something we think is very important, and I know you do too, and that's the future of Eastern Kentucky. You know, when I came into office at the end of 2007, I campaigned on some big ideas, some things that we wanted to accomplish. Little did I realize that within a month after I raised my right hand and was sworn in as the 61st governor of the Commonwealth, that the Great Recession would hit us full in the face. And I have now cut some $1.7 billion in spending out of our budget in 14 different budget cutting exercises over the last 6.5 years. And so your priorities change quickly when you're faced with a financial crisis. And I don't have to tell you in business that. You went through the same kind of exercise that we did at the state level when this recession hit you. So we all lived through it, and I'm happy to report that Kentucky is coming out of this recession, I think, in a lot better shape and a lot faster than most other states. However, we have an area of our state in eastern Kentucky, because of some unique circumstances, that is not seeing the kind of recovery that the rest of the state is. You know, in the last 24 months, because of the dramatic depression in the coal industry, we've lost about 7,000 or so jobs. And you think about 7,000 good-paying jobs in a region and the effect, the ripple effect. I mean, not just the effect on that family, that's bad enough, but the ripple effect on the economy. Then you can imagine the effect that it's having all over that region. About a year ago, Hal Rogers and I sat down and talked about this. It was actually, August, September, somewhere in that time frame. And we were fortunate because we knew each other. We've known each other a long time. We go all the way back to the last century. You know, you can look at his hair and tell. Of course, you can look at my hair and tell also. But at least we both still got it, Hal. I was Attorney General back in the late 70s, early 80s, and before he became a congressman, he was Commonwealth's attorney down in the Somerset area. And so we got to know each other at that time. And we've had that relationship ever since, and the basis of that relationship is not only a friendship, but it is a trust. You know, when you're in this political game, if you don't develop that trust relationship with someone, then it's pretty hard to have frank and honest discussions and talk your way through issues. And fortunately, the Congressman and I have that kind of relationship. We have such a great relationship that we put politics aside. I've signed him up for Obamacare. He's asked me to contribute to Crossroads. We're not going to do either one of those, I don't think. But we do have that kind of relationship, and that enabled us to sit down and to talk frankly about the situation and what we could do about it. And obviously, if you are around politics very much, you know that politicians tend to not want to put their hands on or to own an unsolvable problem, or a problem that can't be solved in a relatively short time so that you can declare victory and go on. Well, we both knew that, changing the economy of Eastern Kentucky in a year or two was impossible. This is a long-term process. It's going to be going on a long time after I'm gone, and maybe even a time after he's gone, although the Congressman tells me in 20 or so years he may think about retiring. But it is a long-term process, and it's something that, number one, we could get started, but we would not finish. And that when it finishes, and if it finishes, it's going to be because the people of Eastern Kentucky take ownership of this effort and finish it on their own. That's really the key to this whole SOAR effort, is that the people of Eastern Kentucky have got to do this themselves. Hal and I have done some big things that are going to have big effects. He talked about the high-speed broadband project. That will have a tremendous impact on Eastern Kentucky. It'll have a tremendous impact all over Kentucky, because I'm going to make sure that we do that everywhere, but the first priority is Eastern Kentucky. And while I can't guarantee any of you that if your community has high-speed broadband, we can bring a company there, I can almost guarantee you that if you don't have it, we won't be able to bring a company there. Because today, high-speed broadband access is just as commonplace and just as needed as a road or running water or a commercial area is to a community. It is just one of the basic essentials for a company to be successful. The Mountain Parkway expansion that Hal mentioned is a big thing that we are going to get done in the next 5 to 7 years, all the way from your I-64 all the way through Pikeville. And that will open up an area to further economic development. He mentioned the promise zones, the strike force counties that the USDA has designated. We just received about $1.3 million from the AmeriCorps group and the Economic Development group in the Department of Commerce out of D.C. So things are happening, momentum is building, and we have put together a highly talented group of folks from Eastern Kentucky to lead this effort. Business folks from all over the area, civic leadership, religious leadership. We have pulled from all corners of Eastern Kentucky to bring that leadership together, because, as I mentioned, they're the ones that are going to have to take this up and run with it. And that's happening right now. We just walked out today and announced that the state is going to go together with the city of Pikeville and open up another industrial site on a surface mine, old surface mine, 5 miles from Pikeville. I think it's called Marion Branch. The state is going to put an access road in. We have $8 million in the budget to build a bridge across Lavisa Fork to connect up the access road with US 23. And Nicholasville-based Alltech is going to locate 2 businesses, an aquaculture business and an egg-laying business and processing facility, to be the first 2 tenants in that industrial park. They're also going to go into downtown Pikeville and open up a distillery / brewery, hopefully getting it designated on the Bourbon Trail and creating a big tourist attraction in downtown Pikeville. They're going to call it, I think, Double Barrel Distillery, taking off on the Hatfield-McCoy feud. And we have a few moonshiners still there that are upset, but I think it's going to be okay, because we'll let them sell their product there too. Things are happening. I submit to you things will continue to happen because I sense, and the Congressman sense, that perhaps for the first time, folks in Eastern Kentucky have come to the realization that it is an absolute necessity to diversify this economy. You know, in times past, when we had the coal industry always with us, while it would go down, it would go in cycles, but you know, it always would come back, and that was really the basis for a lot of good paying jobs. Well, as the Congressman mentioned, you know, coal is going to be with us for a long time, and it's going to be a solid basis and foundation of that economy, but it's probably never going to hire the number of people that it hired in the past. And I think folks have finally realized that. And so they're very serious about stepping up and doing what they need to do to expand and to diversify the economy of Eastern Kentucky. Things are started, they're moving ahead. Will we have failures? Yes. Quite honestly, if we didn't have a failure now and then, it'd probably mean we weren't trying hard enough. And we weren't branching out wide enough, and we weren't getting outside of the box far enough to really do what we need to do. But I'll guarantee you we're going to have a lot more successes than we're going to have failures, because the Eastern Kentucky folks are going to make sure of that. They're not only a proud people, they're a smart people, they're an industrious people, and they're going to make sure that this works. Thank you all very much for having us.
Well done, Governor.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, what makes this program, this plan, different from past efforts and endeavors to do what you hope will be done with SOAR? What makes this program different? Congressman Rogers?
Well, you know, we've had numerous studies down through the generations of time about how to diversify the economy. Good studies, good plans, but they went on a shelf and began to gather dust and never saw implementation. The governor and I are determined this time to have the study point toward achievable results in all of these sectors, whether it be tourism or incubation of new businesses or leadership training and the like. We're determined that those plans will not go on a shelf and gather dust. We're determined to make them work. So we're planning the work now, and it's, I think, the best study that's been done, but yet it's still a study. Then comes implementation, and that's where the hard work will come. And that's where the strains on community fellowship will be strained. One of the difficulties that Kentucky has, not just East Kentucky, we've got a lot of counties, a lot of poor counties, and they find it difficult to get along, even out of basketball season. And so one of the big efforts is to try to pull the region together around a common plan to where we all sense and see the same problem and will join under a big umbrella to make it go away. I saw that with pride. The cleanup organization that's still going on. Tremendous results. Only because we identified a common problem, trash, litter, dumps, and the like. Everyone had the problem. And they were waiting, I think, for somebody to come along with a plan that would help achieve the cleanup that they could join in. And that's what's happened, and it still goes on. So it's a good lesson in collaboration and cooperation and working a plan.
Governor, what should the SOAR initiative mean for the rest of the state of Kentucky?
Well, first of all, Bill, let me just add one thing to what the Congressman said. I think the other reason that this will be successful is the sense of urgency that the people of Eastern Kentucky have. The crisis that they sense with the downturn in the coal industry and really the long-term prospects of getting those jobs back. I think that sense of urgency has really lit a fire, not only under the two of us, but under people in Eastern Kentucky and the leadership in Eastern Kentucky. And you've got a lot of them who are part of your chamber here. I saw Jim Booth, I think, back there, and Gene Hale and others who are participating with us in this effort. And I think they would confirm that there is a real sense of urgency this time that we've got to do something. And that's why I think that it'll be sustainable. I think in the long run it'll be sustainable. The reason this is important for the rest of the state is very simple. This state can't reach its potential if we have a region of the state that is lagging behind. You know, we've got so many great assets in Eastern Kentucky. It's people, it's terrain, everything you could want for success. And we've got to make sure that the folks there enjoy the same success as folks in other parts of the state do. I mean, Eastern Kentucky is not the only place that's having problems. I mean, we've got pockets in West Kentucky and different places that we're working on too. But as a region, because of the coal situation mainly, you've got a big area here that needs this help. But number one, for the state to be successful, every region of the state needs to be competitive and be a part of the economic growth. And secondly, the people there deserve a good education and a good job, the same as people in the rest of Kentucky do, and we'll all be stronger for that.
How will you and how are you working on being sure that young people in Appalachia, in these Eastern Kentucky counties, have not only direct input, but a buy-in to what the overall plan is?
Well, we've got one of the 10 working groups is leadership training and youth involvement. And that's a focus of the organization, is to bring along young people who are really the future of that region. And to try to instill in them the same sense of urgency that the rest of us have, but trying to make them realize that it's their region and their future that we're working on now. So we're holding meetings all through the region with those groups to get their buy-in, to get them to give us their ideas and their attitudes and their muscle. We are preaching to them, when you finish your college education, come home and help us further develop the region. There's a program at the Center for Rural Development in Somerset called the Rogers Scholars, which does just that, as does the Governor's Scholars program. But the one I'm talking about is just for Eastern Kentucky. And we're graduating hundreds of those types of people now who spend a week dwelling on the future, their future, and the future of East Kentucky and how they play into it. So that's a big part of our effort, is to recruit the ideas and the talents of our young people.
Governor?
Well, as Hal said, we've got one of our working groups that is geared in to developing leadership in young people. We had a great group of young folks participate at the summit and actively participate. Not only were they in the audience and went to the working groups there, they were on the program. And you should have heard some of them speak of not only their love for their home place, but how important it is to them to be able to have a place in Eastern Kentucky that is going to be productive, that's going to have a good economy, where they can live and work and raise their families. I foresee, as we move along, getting a lot more involved on the college campuses in eastern Kentucky. And we've got not only community colleges spread out through that region, but a lot of both private and public institutions up that way. And even in the high schools, starting to do some things to generate more interest in and generate more ideas. You know, it's interesting where some of these ideas are going to come from. It's going to come from these young folks. Entrepreneurship, in the long run, I think is going to be one of the keys to success in Kentucky in general and eastern Kentucky in particular. You're going to have a lot of small business development. You know, it's nice to hit the big home runs and get a Toyota or to get a Ford or whatever, but you don't hit those very often. But you can hit a lot of singles and doubles, and quite honestly, our economy here in Kentucky, about 95% of it is based on businesses that have got 50 or fewer employees. So we're kind of a small business mecca anyway, and we're already developing ideas to develop more entrepreneurship and to get people coming right out of school and out of college to say, hey, you know, I can start a business. I can do this myself.
And we're having to try to educate communities about entrepreneurship. The coal business has been wonderful for East Kentucky. Big paying jobs, good paying jobs, steady employment and the like. But it was so pervasive and the wages were so good that no one wanted to leave that job to take a chance on opening up a tire shop or a battery operation or what have you. And consequently, the entrepreneurship path has really not been very well developed. And so that's a part of what we're also trying to do.
Well, you've both mentioned coal, Congressman and Governor. You did in your first remarks. What role will coal play in the future of eastern Kentucky through SOAR? What different role will it play, and how do you see that?
Well, certainly, as I mentioned in my remarks, in my mind, coal and the coal business is going to be an integral part of the economy of Kentucky for decades because we have to have the energy. This country has to have the energy, and while things are moving and switching and changing, still a significant amount of our energy comes from coal and will continue to come from coal. I was over this morning at the E.W. Brown power station over just out of Harrodsburg, right around Harrington Lake, where we announced and cut the ribbon on a pilot project, a clean coal burning pilot project that has been developed with the Center for Applied Research at UK and LG&E and KU. And that technology is continuing to be developed, and that's going to be part of the future of the coal business, is developing that technology to burn coal cleaner. It is a CO2 capture pilot project that they have over there. So that's coming, and coal will always, in my mind, be a part of our future. But it's not going to be as big a part as it's played in the past, particularly in these regions. And so we've got to diversify that economy, but it's still going to be with us. And part of diversifying this economy is, part of this entrepreneurship is some person going out and starting a job that will supply the coal industry with whatever it may be. And, you know, there's still plenty of room to develop around the coal industry.
Congressman?
Well, I think the governor's right. Coal's going to be here for a long time in Kentucky. More and more, it's being done with machines rather than people. That likely will continue. So that means fewer jobs per ton mined in the future. So we've got to diversify to find ways to employ those people who formerly were in coal mines or were headed that way.
I'm going to ask people if they have some quick questions for our guest. We're on another tight schedule, but if you wouldn't mind coming to the center microphone, I'll ask one more, and if we have a couple there, and if not, we'll wrap it up here in a minute.
I do understand that we are standing in the way of the cocktail reception, so you know, we'll move fast.
Gentlemen, as we began this conversation about other plans in the past, there have been some, and only a few people, but you've read too, that really doubt another plan, another process. How do you prove those critics wrong? And I guess more importantly, other than the announcements which you've already made to tell us about today, and the one that your office just sent out this afternoon about the Alltech investment in Marion Branch. What are the measures, what are the metrics that you look for that are going to prove this to be a successful effort?
Well, for some people, you're never going to make them believe, no matter how many things you do and how successful you are. I think Hal and I subscribe to the philosophy of we're just going to go do it. And Eastern Kentucky is going to go do it. And if there are naysayers, let them be naysayers. I understand the reluctance to say that two politicians are up here actually trying to do this because it's the right thing to do. But that's what we're trying to do, because it's the right thing to do. As I mentioned up there, it'd be awfully easy for us to dodge this and just say, hey, that's somebody else's problem, because we're not going to be able to claim success on this. I mean, we're not going to be able to, in 2 years, turn around and go, boy, wasn't that great? We got all that done. I mean, it's just starting. But we knew that if we didn't start it, it would never happen. And so we're going to get it started, and look what we've done already. Good golly. I mean, the naysayers doubt the Mountain Parkway. Well, it's in the budget now. The naysayers doubt the broadband. Well, it's in the budget now. And the naysayers doubt Alltech. Well, go see it when it's built. And sooner or later, most of them, I think, will reluctantly say, golly, maybe they're telling the truth.
It's going to take, as the governor said earlier, it's going to take a long time. The seedling that we've planted, we will not enjoy its shade. It will succeed perhaps long after both of us have passed from the scene. But our job now is to create an organization that has deep roots, that has funding, that has survivability, that has people who are persistent and who are long-range viewers and will work. That's the difference between this plan and studies in the past. I'm determined, as best I can, to make it work, and the governor, of course, is as well. And so are the hundreds of other people who are involved in its operation now. A tremendous, big board of directors, staff, and good working groups that are out there plowing the ground as we speak. So we will see successes along the way. We will see some bright, shining stars that shoot across the sky. We will see some duds. But over the long pull, if we will stay with this and have the determination to make it work over time, we'll succeed. We may not see it, you may not see it, but it will happen. I saw it happen with Pride, as I mentioned a moment ago, and Unite, the anti-drug group. 30 counties involved in those operations. And the cleanup campaign has been tremendous. And people see the success and they revel in that, and they take part in it. For example, they've picked up almost 1 million tires, 187,000 old appliances thrown over the banks of the mountain into the creek. Like 3,000 dumps that have been erased. You can't find a dump in Eastern Kentucky, an illegal dump, anymore, for example. But that's been going on for 13 years. And people are still enjoying it and reveling in it. We have 35,000 volunteers on a cleanup day, even yet, 13 years after we started it. And by the way, let me remind you, Pride was started by myself and Governor Patton's Natural Resources Commissioner. And it was state agencies, federal agencies, and then local people piped in. And we've got this tremendous organization, and it works. It's a good model for SOAR. But it's proof that if you stay with it and you work together and you've got a noble goal that people share, Eastern Kentuckians, like all of Kentuckians, will pitch in. We've got a tremendous sense of pride in place. We're proud of where we're from. You ask somebody if where they're from. They don't say Mount Vernon. They say Rockcastle County. Or Moorhead. No, it's Rowan County. So we've got a tremendous pride in our place. And we want to see those places succeed. And those people are joining together in this cause across county lines.
All right, let's take this question, please.
Congressman Rogers, Governor Beshear, thank you for your cooperative leadership. My business is in 5 different states, but this is the only state where the governor called me and said, what can I do for your business? And we moved our headquarters after that initial meeting. Thank you, Governor. My question's for Congressman Rogers. You mentioned that there are 10 working groups. Can you talk a little bit about how you selected them?
How we selected them?
Yes.
Well, it was a collaborative effort, of course. The governor and I labored over it time and again. His staff, my staff, the group called RUPRI, which is the group from the U.S. Department of Agriculture that helped put this thing together. We all collaborated and we pitched in and we selected and deselected and went from one to the other. We wanted to cover every aspect of economic life in our communities, tourism, recruiting of businesses, incubation locally of businesses, leadership training for young people especially, but also civic leaders in the region. Help me out, Governor.
Got health. You got
Tourism.
education, workforce
Education
development.
reform. Yeah. Workforce retraining.
Right. So you're right. I mean, we tried to look at the waterfront and look at all aspects of quality of life and cover those, and we ended up narrowing it down to 10.
And I'm sure if anyone would like to volunteer, to get involved, they would call your
More
offices.
importantly, all of you are sitting out there, you're either in business for yourself or working for a business. And Hal and I would like for you to take a look at Eastern Kentucky and seeing you got a great workforce and you got a lot of them available right now, and you got some really good locations. So just put that in the back of your mind and start looking. As you start looking to expand in Kentucky, look to expand in Eastern Kentucky.
I'm thinking about putting together a tour, Governor, of really lower I-75 and the plants along that highway where we have the cable, to let you see just how complex some of these operations are that are being handled wonderfully by our people. For example, the State Department down in Williamsburg with their visa application center for the whole State Department are doing some of the most complex things there is to do. And so, and the company there told me, they said, we can't believe the quality of the workforce that we have here. It's home of Union College and Williamsburg College. But also the work ethic. People there want to stay there, and they will give you a real good work day to do that. They want to please you. And I think that's the biggest asset we have, Governor, is the quality of the workforce. And now with access to the cable, I think we have an advantage because of the work ethic of our people and the low wage scale that exists there.
Gentlemen, thanks very much for sharing the story of SOAR with us. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Good job,
It's now
Governor.
time this afternoon to adjourn the afternoon session. Remember the dinner tonight with Chuck Todd of MSNBC, Chief White House Correspondent for the network. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, the Continental Breakfast, and 8:30 we'll get underway. Have a safe and a great evening.